Since Jochen Zeitz started rewiring Harley Davidson, the company has not had much to show at the International Motorcycle Show in November. They now release new model year bikes in January. This year will be no different, with carryover models showing up in the dealerships in early January 1st. Then a big launch event will take place on January 18th when we'll see the remaining model. The launch will highlight the coveted CVO models and any models that are getting significant changes, such as motor displacement increase. The big question is if any new models will be introduced at the January 18th event. Since Harley renewed the trademark on the name Bronx, some riders have been holding out for hope that a Street Fighter model from Harley Davidson running the 975 engine will be released. Having ridden the Nightster, I can say it is a very fun engine, and I would love to see the Bronx make an official return to the coming soon model lineup. The bike we know that is coming is the Pan America 975. I discovered a part sheet referencing the RA 975 back in April before motorcycle.com was tipped to it. Recently, further evidence of this model was found in a recall page from the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, and we can tell it was originally supposed to be a 2022 model, but for some reason it did not get released in 2022. I can't say I'm surprised based on the supply chain issues and the logistics issues many manufacturers have been faced. The last few years, Harley has been staging the release of new models like the Pan America, the Sportster S, and the Nightster between March and August, rather than making them available in January with the other existing models. Throw a few icon models in like the Revival and the El Diablo, special edition bikes like the Arctic Blast and the GI Enthusiast collection, and Harley has been able to grab press headlines during the bulk of the riding season, which seems like a pretty smart idea from a marketing perspective. Based on trends I've seen from Harley and the fact that the Pan America 975 was slated for 2022 originally, I think we will see Harley's attempt at the largest middleweight adventure bike at launch or very shortly after. More important than when is the what. So let's talk about 6 key specs that I think everyone is going to focus on and judge this bike on. And in the end, I will tell you what I think Harley Davidson will need to do to make this bike be perceived as hitting the mark by the middleweight adventure crowd. 1. Horsepower. The Bronx was originally expected to have 115 horsepower from the 975cc power plant. When Harley released the Sportster S, it lost almost 30 horsepower from the Pan America 1250's 150 horsepower rating. That loss was essentially a 20% decrease. So if we add about 20% to the Nightster's 90 horsepower, that would put the Pan America 975 at around 108 to 110 horsepower. With competitors in the middleweight adventure segment ranging from 90 to 110 horsepower with smaller displacements, Harley Davidson is going to really need to strive for that 110 horsepower mark. More horsepower is preferable since it's pretty much the biggest displacement in the middleweight class, with weight being the legitimate concern, which we'll get to in a second, and people trying to compare bikes by using calculated horsepower per pound measurements. This really becomes an important one that Harley needs to impress adventure bike riders with. 2. Torque. Based on the competition and the fact that, again, many of the competitors in this class are running smaller engine displacements than the 975, Harley really needs to hit that 70 foot-pounds of torque that was expected with the Bronx. Most of the other bikes in this class, like the BMW 850 or the Tiger 900, are in the mid-60s. But to rival KTM or Ducati alternatives, Harley Davidson will need to get that middleweight Pan America into the 70s. Now, I know it sounds like I'm just chasing numbers, and trust me, I get that the ass dyno can't really tell the difference between 68 foot-pounds and 71, but many people look at the specs, then judge a bike based on those numbers. And with Harley being the new kid on the block, they are going to have to try harder than everyone else to win the ADV crowd over from these other established brands. 3. Seat height. One of the concerns is Harley Davidson will just drop a smaller engine in the existing Pan America frame, which means the seat height and the weight would be very close to the Pan America 1250s. I am not a tall guy, coming in just under 5'9", and I've rode both the Pan America 1250 and the 1250S, which has a pretty typical seat height of 34.4 inches in the high seat position and 33.4 in the low seat. Some people feel the seat height should come down on the 975, but a smaller displacement does not mean you want to sacrifice ground clearance or go to smaller wheels. My DR650 is almost 35 inches for seat height. Smaller displacement doesn't mean smaller frame or lower seat height. And if you think the DR650 is a stretch, try riding a Honda XR650 with a whopping 37-inch seat height. My point is the seat height for the Pan American 1250 is fine for a full-sized or a middleweight adventure bike. I fully expect that to keep the cost down, the Pan American 975 will use as many components from the 1250 variant as possible, and that is good for consumers and aftermarket parts and accessory manufacturers, so that parts could potentially fit both the 1250 and the 975. 4. wait, because I do expect the 975 to just be a smaller displacement version of the 1250 Pan America. This is going to be the battle for Harley Davidson. Every middleweight adventure model except for the BMW 850 is below 500 pounds. Even the Ducati Desert X is coming in at 492 pounds wet. BMW is like 504 pounds. If we look at the Nightster with the 975 engine, it is only like 6 pounds less than the Sportster S. The Pan America 1250 is 504 dry, 540 wet. Even if Harley can shave 10 or hell even 20 pounds off that, it will still be the heaviest bike in the class. Sure, they may get within 20 pounds of the BMW, and well, it is a bigger displacement with more power, so it's justified. But with KTM, Norden, and Triumph all coming in under 480 pounds, those riders that actually do get off-road are going to balk at that extra 40 to 50 pounds. This to me is the challenge for Harley Davidson's engineers. I don't know how they would do it if they're using the same basic frame as the 1250 Pan America, but if they can get this below 500 pounds and get it close to 110 horsepower, they can pivot the discussion to how they are rivaling the Ducati on power and weight. If they come in with less than 100 horsepower, over 500 pounds, it will become a discussion on why they even built it by the existing ADV riders. 5. Suspension. So I heard someone say that it needed to have 10 inches of suspension travel. Personally, I think that is crazy, with most bikes in this class having 8 to 9 inches of travel. The Pan America 1250 has 7.5 inches, and while on paper some will say it isn't enough, but I rode the Pan America and I thought it was great. I was impressed by the suspension, but I don't profess to be an expert ADV rider. I just know what I felt and thought. And before someone makes insulting remarks, I rode the BMW adventure bikes, the last gen KLR 650, besides owning a DR 650. And the DR 650 has 9 to 10 inches of travel, and many DR 650 riders complain about the stock suspension, saying it's not good enough. The point I'm trying to make, travel alone does not make good suspension. We get caught up on specs, and in the end, the ride is what matters. If it has the suspension of the Pan America 1250, I personally will be happy. 6. Cost. The same person who felt that it should have 10 inches of travel also said they would like to see it at $13,000 US. Now, everyone would like to see cheaper prices today, as everyone feels like they're getting squeezed from every direction. But let's be realistic. $13,000 would make it the biggest displacement bike in the class, excluding Ducati's 993, and the cheapest. If there's one thing I'm sure of, it is Harley has no interest in being the most affordable brand in the world. They strive to be the most desirable brand, and as a premium brand, they price their products accordingly. You may disagree about the pricing structure, but Harley Davidson has the largest dealer network behind Honda in the US. They have an advantage, at least here in the US, and to be fair, every bike touting 100 horsepower in this class is $14,000 to $15,000 on average, with bikes like Ducati being $17,000. So I expect Harley to be in the $15,000 to $17,000 range, depending on how close they can hit these key specs to compete with other models in this class. Leave me a comment and let me know which of these 6 key things you think is the most critical for the Pan America 975 to get right. And to be successful, what marks do you think they have to hit? Don't forget to watch this video next, because YouTube thinks you're gonna love it. You guys stay safe, thanks for watching, and keep on riding.